Yishtabaki Kwarvik Ramami Nasei, Yitakarvik Kalashman Kucha, Riaku, Vilame Kabakata, Shirata, Shwaka Nechamata, Tamir Biamavim, Ru Amen, Slatan Rabatan, Kaishwak and Shwangi Ramain, Eshlam Rabba Mishma, Yavachamlin, Lugaka Israel, Vim Amen, Osasham Ramav, Yasashamalino, Gako Israel, the Yamaru. Amen. So we are moving ahead in our Pirkei Avot study. Pirkei Avot is on page 274. And where it's chapter 12, Mishnah number 12 of chapter 5. And Rachel, can we have you volunteer? Can I volunteer you? Number 12.
24?
274.
274. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, and 12, you said?
12.
Okay. There are 4 character traits among people. Some say, mine is mine and yours is yours. Now, this is the average trait. However, some say this trait is characteristic of some. Mine is yours and yours is mine, the trait of a peasant. Mine is yours and yours is yours, the trait of the saintly. Yours is mine and mine is mine, the trait of a scholar.
That's, any thoughts on this?
How does that work in marriage?
Tell us, Suzanne.
Well, obviously, this is not, we're not discussing marriage here, we're discussing my property versus your property. And as you might scratch your head, what's mine is mine and yours is yours means I leave you alone. I don't bother you, you don't bother me. That is the average trait. How do they make that big leap from there to say that this trait is characteristic of the evil people of Sodom?
Because there's no sharing.
So, yeah.
I was going to say there really seems like a separation and a lack of caring and concern. Mine is mine, yours is yours. There's almost a distancing.
So, if I have 10 times what my neighbor has, and it doesn't bother me,
Right.
That's a characteristic of Sodom.
Right.
You know, I can do something for that family. I can, you know, share a little bit more. I can invite them over to eat a little bit more. If I know that they're struggling for, you know, for food security. Maybe I've got a job for, you know, for someone in the family. You know, you can make up that distance between, you know, the fact that, you know, that I'm making 10 times the amount that this other person is making. So that's the characteristic of Sodom that we're talking about, and you came upon it immediately. People are stingy sometimes, even to the point that if it doesn't even take anything away from me, like if my neighbor says, I'm having a little family get together, and I know that you're going away next weekend when it's going on. Can people park in your driveway? And no skin off my back, I don't care. But just to be able to say what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, that's not, that driveway is not yours. You can't, don't tell your guests to park there. It's that kind of a thing where one jurist wrote that hell is populated by people where the laws are carried out to the nth degree. You know, there's no Rachmanut, Rachmanus in Yiddish. There's no, you know, what's that?
Pity. Pity.
Pity.
There's no pity.
Okay,
No
yes.
concern for them.
Yeah, there's no concern. So, you know, you can, so it's all, the laws are perfectly kept. It sounds like heaven, but it actually, it's hell. Anything about the other characteristics? Mine is yours and yours is mine?
I like the saint one.
What's that?
I like the saintly one.
The saintly one.
Yeah.
Because it gets ridiculous, mine is yours and yours is mine, because here, take this. You take it. I go, except yours is mine also, so I take it back. It goes back and forth and back and forth. It's sort of, they call it a peasant here, but I'm not sure I would have done that particular translation, because the translation is Am Haaretz, and Am Haaretz has become, initially it wasn't, it was the people of the land, so that's the, you know, the peasant, the maybe a little bit unschooled kind of person, but Am Haaretz has become to mean, in the last few thousand years, and certainly, so it has to go back further because this is 1,500 years ago. And Am Haaretz is somebody that's unschooled, somebody with no class, somebody with no learning. So that would be, you know, that's the translation of Am Haaretz, not just a peasant, but somebody that's coarse, in a sense. Yeah.
Isn't this communism?
Well, it's a. You can read into that which one is it sounds most like communism to you?
Mine is yours and yours is mine.
Yeah. But it doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't tend to work out very well. As you can see from the takeoff on it in, what was it, Animal House? Not Animal House, what's the Orwell book? Animal Farm. Okay, not Animal House, that's a completely different, not John Belushi, but George Orwell is, you know, what happens when you try to do, you know, a good communist way of doing things. People become,
More equal than others.
yeah, people are more equal than others.
Comes out to yours is mine.
Animal Farm. All right, last comment.
The last one kind of has a toddler flavor to it.
Yeah. Yours is mine and mine is mine. The trait of the scoundrel.
For a president.
All right, we are ready for the Torah service. We got to stay on schedule because we have a special program. So the Torah service is on page 139, but we're also, who's going to do the, no, Simon didn't show up, I thought Simon was going to. Yeah, can we do this one?
That's fine, and we're gonna fine. So we do this now.
Okay, so I'll tell you, with the ark open.
Okay.
With the ark open, we're gonna do Love Wins in the handout, once the ark is open. So I'm gonna have you do in one hand, you've got your Siddur, which is on page 139. In your other hand, you have Love Wins, which is the beginning of your handout.
So is where's mine?
All right.
Alright, so I'm starting because I was just going first. Okay. I'll start, okay. Ein kamocha ba'elokim Adonai, ein kamasecha malchutecha malchut kol amim u'mishalecha v'chol dor Adonai
We rise, we're on page 139.
Even so, Aharon, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, Yarusu Alecha, Yarusu Alecha, Sion Tetzei Torah, Sion Tetzei Torah, Ute'ar Adonai, Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Le'amo Yisrael,
The handout. So we're on the handout where it says 5, love wins.
Are we reading this together?
Yeah.
Yes, Bonnie's starting us though.
One day, the words coming out will sound strange. Oppression based on gender or orientation will be a memory. History to honor and remember. The pain of hiding, repressing, denying, honoring the triumphs of those who fought to be free. Remembering the violence and vitriol that cost lives. When love wins at last.
V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha.
Love your neighbor as yourself will be as natural as breathing.
V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha.
One day, love will win every heart. Love will win every soul. Fear will vanish like smoke, and tenderness for all will fill our hearts. V'ahavta l'reacha
Kamocha.
Love wins in the end. Love wins. Man for man, woman for woman, woman for man, man for women. All genders, all orientations, all true expressions of heart. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Let this peace be believed in our day, a tribute to the many and diverse gifts from heaven. A tribute to love deep and true, each of us for one another. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha.
Ve'yanmarais,
Elisha 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 Yahira Adonai Martu Shera Ve'yanmarais Ve'yanmarais Elisha Kadisha Kadisha Yahira Adonai Martu Shera Yeheira V'Tira Habibi, Oraita, Petashmi Mishali, Teribi, Periba Tehora, Yisrael, Letavavuchai, Verishma, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol, Adonai Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Kadosh Shemo.
Galul Adonai Iti, Veron Lama Shemo Yavta. Adonai Hagidu, Vehagidu,
Tiferet, Vehanei, Tzaf, Vehamod, Kivod HaShamayim U'Haaretz, Kivod HaShamayim U'Haaretz, Adonai, HaMamlechot, Yitzhak Adonai Elohim, Ve'yishav Margashav, Romabu, Adonai Elohim, Ve'yishavu, Ve'arnashu, Ki Kadosh, Adonai Elohim.
We're on Parshat Bahalotcha. We're actually on page 832. Give you a moment in your Eitz Chaim's. I just want to tell you my favorite line in the entire Parshan. It's on page 828. The people are complaining that they haven't had variety in their diets. And they get this wonderful manna every day, but, they want meat, they want a burger, they want fries, they want something a little bit different. And so they complain on page 828, sentence 6, now our gullets are shriveled. So,
That'll become your favorite line.
and you can tell it's my favorite line because next Friday I'm going to have my shriveled gullet opened up a little bit over at the hospital. So I appreciate all your good wishes for my gullet and the rest of it. And who knows, my goal isn't to have to buy back the clothes that I gave away when I was 50 pounds fatter, but just a few more pounds. So it'll be easier for me to eat. So I'm just glad to share with you what, what the procedure is and because rumors can start to fly. Hey, he's so thin, who knows? He could have something very, very serious. This is only medium serious. Page 832. And we're at sentence 30, where it says Shavi. V'yazor, v'yagin, v'yoshir l'chol achosim bo, v'nomar amen. Hakol hovu golenu, stu kavod laTorah.
Yamod Tzvi Ben, I'm sorry, I never write it down, so I need the rest of it. Tzvi
Ben Yehuda HaKohen.
Tzvi Ben Yehuda HaKohen, Estema.
Baruch she'atan Torah Olam Yisrael b'kedushato, v'atem avekim b'Adonai lachem chayim tochem hayom.
Next time.
What page, what sentence?
We're at page 832, and we're at sentence 30. It's not popping out at me right now, so give me a moment.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Amen. ויאסף משה למחנהו וזקני ישראל ברוח נשא בעץ אדוני ויגסל בהם מן הים ויתוש על המחנה כדרך יום כה כדרך יום כה סביבוס המחנה וחמסיים על פני הארץ ויקם העם כל היום ההוא וכל הלילה וכל יום המחרס ועשו את הצלב המעמיד אסף עשרה חמורים ושתו להם שטוח סביבוס המחנה סביבוס המחנה.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
And we're on page 832, line 33.
Yamod Shalom Ben Yitzchak Levi Vizkiah.
Baruch hu Adonai Havarach. Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'noten lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Habasara denu ben shinehem terem yikareis Yaf Adonai chara ba'am, vayach Adonai ba'am, makara ba'piyod, vayikras Hashem hamakom, hahu kibros hatava, Yisham kavru esam hamisavim, Nikiros hatava, dasuham chatzeros, vayiyu bechatzeros.
Elohim melech haolam, asher noten lanu Torah temet, Yipnei olam nota b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. We're on page 833, line 1. Second paragraph.
Yeah, Talmud Shlishi, Nechama Sonia Bat Akiva Vidrisha, believe. Did I get that? Maggie?
Oh, you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
Go, you just get up.
Well, it's not Nechama.
No.
No.
It's Miriam.
Oh. Miriam.
Present.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's right.
Shlishi.
It's okay, we'll help.
This,
No problem.
and touch the here, kiss it.
Baruch es Adonai Hambarah.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarah La'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bochar banu mikol ha'amin v'nosan lanu es Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Yosein HaTorah.
Amen. V'tadaber Miriam v'Aaron v'Moshe alado, so Isha hakushis asher lakach, Isha lukushis lakach, v'yamru harak ach b'Moshe, diber Adonai halo gambandu diber, v'yishma Adonai, v'yish Moshe anav miyod, mikol ha'adam asher al pnei ha'adamah, v'yomer Adonai pisam el Moshe v'el Aaron, Yal Miriam, Su Shalosh Tekamel Ohel Moed, Vayetzu Shalosh
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher nosanu Torah Himes v'chayei olam nota v'shenu Tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai Yosein HaTorah.
Amen.
We're on page 833, line 5.
Talmud Revi'i, Michael ben Noach Baruch Aleah.
We'll make a Mishaberach for all those in need of healing. Mishaberach, Havosein Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, Sarivka Rachel Leah, Yivarach, Yirapes Acholin, Sila Basleah, or Mordechai ben Mindel.
Eileen Kleber, Robert Carlin, Cindy View.
Rhoda Jerry Collin, Eileen Larry Fox.
Other names? Margaret Rhodes.
Irene Thomas Sunday.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimolei Rachem Aleim, Lachzikon Laposav, Yishak Lehem Hei Refuah Shlem L'chol Averam, V'Gidam V'Tach Shachar Yisrael, Refuah HaNefesh, Refuah HaGuf, Shabbat Himmelizak, Refuah Krovo, Lavo, Hashtabal B'Zman Karev, V'Nomar, Amen.
We are on page 833, line 5.
Baruch Hu Adonai Baruch. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bo chavon mikol ha'amim, v'nosam anu es ha'aretzo. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Vayered Adonai b'amud Anan, vayamot hasaka ovel, vayikra Aram b'Miriam, vayetzu shneihem, vayomer Shimon Devarim, Yen v'yachem Adonai, v'kamarei la besvada, v'chalom adaber la, v'chein avdi Moshe, v'chol beisi nemanu.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher nosam anu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tzolkenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Yamod Hamishi Shalom Ben Chanoch v'Devorah.
We're on page 834, line 8.
Baruch Hu Adonai Baruch.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bo chavon mikol ha'amim, v'nosam es Torah. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. El Pe'adaber Bo Umarei Lo B'chidus Utmas Adonai Yabid Madua Lo Yeresem L'daber B'avdi Moshe V'yichar Af Adonai Bon Vayela V'hanan Sar Me'al Ha'ovel V'nei Yom Mitzoras Kasholet V'yifen Aron El Miriam V'hinei Mitzoras.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam notah b'tzolkenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Yamod Shishi. Sorry, Joe? Is it Yosef or?
Yosef Ben Shmuel.
Yosef Ben Shmuel, I'm using.
We are on page 834, line 11.
Baruch Hu Adonai Baruch. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bo chavon mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu es Torah. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Vayomer Aron El Moshe V'Yadoni El Not Hashem Salenu Chatas Asher Noalnu V'Asher Chatanu. If this sounds familiar, it's part of the Yom Kippur liturgy. Al Natahi Kabeis Asher B'Seisa Mirachem Imo Yochal Chatzi B'Soro Vayitzak Moshe Adonai Lemor El Norefa
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'socheinu, Baruch atah Adonai, nosein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
Talmud, that was she, right?
Yes, so we have shooting.
Talmud Shvi'i, Yehudit. Yehudit?
We are on page 8.
Bat.
Oh.
Bat,
Bat Shalom V'Henya.
Bat Shalom B'Hem.
Please excuse me, we're on page 835, line 14.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam
Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Toratav. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayom Adonai el Moshe v'yavir Yarok Yirak b'fanecha Halo tikoleim Shivat. Thank you. Shivat Yomim Tisager Shivat Yomim Mikus Lamachane V'achar Teyosei V'Tisager Miriam Mikus Lamachane Shivas Yomim V'am Lo Nosad Heyosei Miriam V'achar Nosua Mikatzeros V'yachanu B'midbar Orah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shnei Rabbi, Yomad Brach, Yurte, Yamlich Malchute, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, Yitzromah, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalah, Shemei V'Kudashah, Le'edam, Kol Birchata, V'Shivratam,
Yamod, Maftir, Yitzchak ben Abraham Vasara. Do you want to go come up together? Yamdu. Okay. Yamdu, Rivka, Bat Abraham Vasara.
I have one other request, which is that this is going to become a group aliyah. So if you didn't get an aliyah yet and you want to be part of the special celebration, Gay Pride Month, please come up now and join us for the aliyah.
Gee, we started something.
Okay? I thought you'd be the least offended at the thought of sharing your aliyah.
I would love to share.
Come on, nobody else wants to come up?
don't be shy.
Good, come. Brielle?
Come on. Come on,
Come on, Bree, we'll go up together.
Bree.
Great colors.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Baruch Adonai Habarach, Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim ונתן לנו את תורתו. Baruch atah Adonai נותן התורה.
ויאמר אדוני אל משה ויביא הירק ירק בפניך הלא תכלם 7 ימים תיסגר 7 ימים מחוץ למחנה ואחר תיאסף ותיסגר מרים מחוץ למחנה 7 ימים לא נסע עד תיאסף מרים ואחר נסעו מחצרוס ויחנו במדבר פרעה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Why this particular one for this particular celebration? Well, we have the story of Miriam who is humiliated and because she misspoke and God punishes her and her skin turns white and she's excluded from the camp. She's humiliated. But the people of Israel take her humiliation to heart and they say that we're supposed to move, we're supposed to go on to the next place, but we won't because we respect Miriam. So this moment of humiliation got turned into a moment of respect for Miriam and for her hardship. And so what we have here is a hope that people who in the past were humiliated at Stonewall and other places, that they end up with the respect that all human beings deserve. So we're up to the Hagba and Delilah for the Torah.
Yamor Hagba David. Talmud Delilah Rachel Bat Abraham Bat Sarah. No, she doesn't want to do Delilah. Brielle, you want to do it? Brielle. Aviva. Bat Shana.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe b'nei bnei Yisrael ki Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah, hallelujah. Torah, hallelujah, hallelujah, Torah, hallelujah,
page 153, the Honolulu.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I have to pick the top.
Okay.
If you're able to, we rise. 153.
Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, Kiniskaf Shemo Levado. Natati lachem Torati Avtazovu Eitz
Chaim Him B'Machazikim Ba
Shalom.
seated. Shalom Aleichem wrote in Yiddish what we now know of him the best, Tevye Hilliger, which is Tevye the milkman, which became Fiddler on the Roof. And as you remember, Tevye had 5 daughters, 3 of whom were marriage age, and he goes through trials and tribulations with each of the 3 daughters. You have something in your mind when a child is born, what their future is going to be. Tevye, knowing how poor they are, has given up his oldest daughter to marry a butcher who's a widower, who's older, pretty repugnant to his young daughter, and she turns everything on its head, and she says, no, I'm going to marry Michael Kamzoel, the tailor, somebody I love. And so the first change that Tevye has to make is to have a daughter not follow in the deal that he had made with this particular potential son-in-law, who's just about his own age. Second daughter turns things on its head because she doesn't just want somebody that's different that her father would have picked. She picks a revolutionary in a sense. Is that he gets into trouble for being a revolutionary, gets sent off to Siberia, and she's going to go with him. The third daughter is the daughter who really crosses the line because she falls in love with somebody not Jewish. And for this, Tevye can't accept it. So someone said to me, I hear you're the modern day Tevye because your daughter has all been something a little bit different in terms of my 3 daughters. So my first daughter fell in love with a nice Jewish boy, but he was from Indianapolis. And he was in a military uniform, a Naval Academy graduate. And his parents were Republicans. Who could think of such a thing when I pushed this little girl on the swing that's where things would go. But it was wonderful. One very nice kosher wedding for daughter number 1. Daughter number 2 came to me with someone not Jewish, and informed us, didn't ask, but informed us that they were going to get married. And we found that they found a wonderful Reconstructionist rabbi out in the Boston area who said that I will do the ceremony. Your former altar boy here doesn't have to convert, but you have to go to classes together to do the whole conversion cycle, both of you. So that you're consistent in what you do. And they had they had a wonderful Jewish wedding. They live in Florence. They are
Florence, Mass.
Mass, yes, not Italy. And in 2 hours we have to be at their 4-year-old's dance recital. Their first child goes to the Lander Grinspoon Academy. It's a very Jewish home. And second kosher Jewish wedding. Everybody knows kosher is a little more expensive, but it was wonderful. The third daughter came to us with a woman and said, Miriam and I are in love with each other and we're going to get married. And in actuality, that wasn't a line that I couldn't cross. That was wonderful. Miriam is the child-in-law that reads Torah, that calls me every once in a while and says, "Will you listen to my Torah reading? I'm going to be reading Torah at my chavurah this Shabbat, and will you listen to me and see if I can, if I've made any mistakes or anything like that?" So that household is probably closest to our particular household in terms of its kashrus level. Their son goes to the school that's called Milton. I think it has a last name, it's just nicknamed Milton, I think it's Gottesman or something like that. A day school in the DC area. And so, my version of Tevye, of 3 children-in-law that I couldn't have imagined, all worked out wonderfully. And so, I just wanted to give you that little personal part that everything has been wonderful in terms of the 5 wonderful grandchildren that we have, all Jewish grandchildren, and I'm thrilled about that. So on the Times of Israel, there's actually a newspaper like that, and it's on my phone. I have the app on my phone, and I found this article called "This Rabbi is Flying the Pride Flag," and it's about time, and it's by Avi Novostovich. And let me read it to you. Today I hung the pride flag with the Star of David in the center on the door of my office. I am heterosexual, a rabbi, and dean of conservative Schechter Rabbinic Seminary, which trains rabbis, prayer leaders, and leaders in public life, and promotes Torah study in Israel. The main question I ask myself is, what took me so long to do it? For me, hanging the pride flag on the door of a rabbi's office is a statement that this office is open to every person, that everyone, transgender, heterosexual, asexual, gay, bisexual, lesbian, anything else, is welcome to enter. This view is the foundation of my religious approach and of my understanding of the role of the rabbi. The need to be proactive in expressing this view stems from the fact that there are other contrasting voices, such as that as the chief rabbi of Jerusalem, where Schechter Rabbinical Academy is located, and the fact that many members of the LGBTQ community, specifically those within it who are religiously observant, experience an immense emotional challenge that is often accompanied by a sense of non-belonging and non-acceptance. Our obligation as a society to extend a hand of acceptance also stems from basic humanist and Jewish values, as well as from the commandment, do not stand idly by while your neighbor's blood is being shed. Leviticus 19. The suicide rate in the LGBTQ community, particularly in the transgender community, is much higher than the average of the population. Acceptance by the community, and particularly by rabbis, can be a force for good, and with God's help, lower the suicide rate. It's also our duty, for the same reason, to extend a hand to divorced parents, survivors of sexual trauma, immigrants from Ethiopia, people suffering from poverty, people with disabilities, people with mental illness, and anyone in need of support and a place to belong. Of course, my door is also open to those who believe that Jewish religious law forbids relations between people of the same sex, and people whose opinions differ from mine. My protest is not against any particular Jewish halachic law. It's against those who turn these positions into a license to verbally and physically harm those who are different from them. Again, the rabbi is Rabbi Avi Novostovich. And this is from the Times of Israel. Thank you. So, try to keep on the schedule. We're on page 182 for the Ein Eloheinu. Ein Eloheinu, Ein
Eloheinu, Ein Malkeinu, Ein Moshiachenu, Mi Eloheinu, Mi Adonenu, Mi Malkeinu, Mi Moshiachenu. Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshiachenu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonai. Shaktiru, Abotenu,
We rise for the Olenu. We also want you to have your handouts turn to page 9, Community Remembrance Prayer.
Oh, you want to do next? No, oh, right, okay, next.
So we'll do that at the end of the Olenu.
Right.
Olenu l'shabbat The yard sites for this past week were for Mary Garber, Harry Pincus, Isidore Levine, Isidore Sheps, Gladys Gruszewski, Abraham Hirsch, Israel Seaman, and Samuel Meckler, Zichronam Livracha. Before we say the Kaddish, if you could remain standing for a moment.
So in your handout, there's a picture at the bottom of Harvey Milk, and Harvey Milk was one of my heroes. He was the first openly gay and Jewish supervisor in San Francisco, and he was an outspoken, brash and bold, proud, principled, colorful, passionate advocate for the underdog. In November of 1978, he, along with Mayor George Moscone, were murdered in their city hall. May their memory be a blessing. In the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community, there are numerous socio-political economic reasons for the disproportionate loss of our lives. We remember the loss of family to poverty, isolation, homelessness, and addiction, our brothers to AIDS, sisters to breast cancer, LBGT and non-binary youth to suicide, our trans family, especially trans women of color, to cruel and brutal forms of murder. We are family. As we celebrate and remember their lives today, may we continue to honor their memory by fighting for safety, visibility, dignity, and equality for all.
Amen.
Adonai, our God, remember our relatives who have given their lives in years past because of their sexual or gender identity. for those who were killed by zealots during the Middle Ages, for those who perished in the Holocaust, and for those who have been persecuted and whose lives have been defiled in our cities and our days. Remember them all. Who have lost their minds, desperate in a world who hates them. And with your mercy, remember all those who have lived a life of isolation, repressing their true nature, avoiding the real of their love to each other. God of all creations, spare and have pity, and provide rest for all souls of these lovers, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and help us put an end to hostility and the oppression of any kind. And let us say,
Amen.
The Kaddish is on page 184, and you can join if you want in the Kaddish. Yitgadal, v'yitgadash, Shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad, v'yivrach, Yerutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayei chom, v'yomei chom, v'chayei v'chol beit Yisrael, v'ha'adalah, v'vizman karev, v'yamru.
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mevarach, Olam V'amei Omaya, Yitvarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitholar, Yitramam, v'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, v'yithaber, v'yithalah, Shmei v'kusha v'rivu, v'ela, Kata v'shirata, v'yechamata, v'yirati yomam v'yimru, Amen. Shlomo Rabba men Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, Hosea Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, Amen. So we're gonna have Joan speak first, and then we're going to do the song, but stay up there. Bonnie's gonna sing it with you.
She is. So she wants to.
Whoa. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody here, everyone streaming at home. We hope at least a few people are streaming at home because it finally is working. I'm just so pleased to see everyone here and to see the pews full, and with all of the serious thinking that we have been doing in the last few minutes. And I have a little piece also that's on the serious side. Just know that we have a really extraordinary, wonderful Kiddush downstairs to look forward to, where people are still down there going out of their way to make sure that everything is just right. So I want to put out a big cry, especially to Andrea Fox and Maggie and Bonnie. I'm sorry, I still, I'm gonna have to be locked in a room and come out when I can say it. But, and who really are the impetus of all of this, and where I think, as far as I can tell, where all of this came from. It was not very long ago, it was just a very short time ago that they approached me and Saul and asked if a Kiddush could be sponsored for Pride Month. We both readily agreed, and then they got to work on putting everything together. One of the things they put together were all these sponsors of our Kiddush downstairs, which include Saul and Shoshana, Michael and myself, David Scher, Robert and Judy Katz, who are relatively new to our congregation and have already jumped into sponsoring the Kiddush. And Max and Suzanne Shirasky, who are both here today. And Suzanne, it's wonderful to see you here.
Nice to be here.
And very nice. And thank all of them for the marvelous momentum that went into this.
Also want to thank David for decorating downstairs. When you go down there, you'll see that things are appropriate as they should be. And Lois 11 has been working for approximately, I would say, 3 days on a cake.
Rainbow.
I was gonna be a surprise. I wasn't gonna tell everyone. Okay, on rainbow cake. So that's also one of the highlights of going down. And we thank all of them. We also thank Tara for putting in a lot of enthusiastic time and patience in helping us put together the flyer and just in making sure that everyone knew what was going on and keeping everybody in touch. So it has really been a very special occasion and will continue to be. Before I go on with some of the regular announcements, I'd like to say a few words about the second part of what today is all about. Today is the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riot is what I've always called it. It has probably another 3 or 4 or 5 different names. Please, I'm not trying to embarrass anyone or anything like that, but would you raise your hand if you hadn't ever heard of the Stonewall riot until we started doing this? Everyone in this room has at least heard the phrase. That one person, a couple of people, okay. Maybe I knew more about it because we lived in New York and we grew up in New York and this was happening in New York, in Greenwich Village. But the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village was a gay bar. And they had very few women, they were mostly all men. And something that I just learned that I never knew before was that serving drinks, liquor, wine, anything, beer, anything to gay people was against the law in 1969 in New York. And that was the reason that this happened. The police regularly walked into the bars and looked for gay people breaking the law because they were drinking. And in this case, that is why the police were at the Stonewall Inn on that night. And on that particular night, the group of people who were there, that included a big cross-section of all kinds of people from the gay community, for the first, maybe not for the first time, but for the most public time, said no more. And although the general community has now credited that Stonewall riot, which lasted for 6 days, with the beginning of the gay community becoming more and more, taking more and more of a place in where their lives were going and how people were treating them. This was actually not the first time that something like this had happened in the world. There were other instances where people were beginning to fight back, but this is the one that got the most publicity. It was in the Empire City. I'm a New Yorker, so I can say that. Maybe because it went on for 6 days, or maybe a combination of all of that. Just recently, the commissioner of the New York Police Department, and I mean recently in the last couple of weeks, publicly apologized for that riot and for everything that happened that night on behalf of the city and on behalf of the police department. That, in many ways, shows us how far we've gone, also shows us how much further we need to go as a society to make all of this happen. So remember the Stonewall riot 50 years ago. Remember Gay Pride Month and Gay Pride every day of the year. And come downstairs after Adonai and celebrate with us. Also remember that our annual meeting is this Thursday evening from 6 o'clock until about 8:15. And I hope everyone has gotten the flyers and is aware of the annual meeting. I hope everyone has received the list of board of directors that will be voting on at the annual meeting and will come and join us for that meeting. Just to make it clear, people who can vote at the annual meeting are people who are considered members in good standing. And a member in good standing is someone who has paid dues at least through 2018. Many of you have already paid in 2019, but if you're paid up or you're paying through 2018, don't need to be paid up. That makes you a member in good standing and that makes you eligible to vote. The meeting is an absolutely open meeting. Everybody else can come and watch and do whatever, but only members can vote. And so that will be on this Thursday. The other part of Thursday's meeting is that there's been a group that many of you already know about that has been thinking about taking a trip to Israel in the spring, a year from now. And Saul has said that he will lead that trip. So people are very excited about this. So we're taking about half an hour at the end of the annual meeting for anyone who's interested in that trip to get together and be part of a discussion about the direction that the trip will go, whether we actually will have enough, we're calling it the possibility of taking the trip. We're hoping that it will happen, but we need some support. So if you are interested in this trip, you're not committing in any way at all, but if you are interested, please stay for the last half hour and be part of the discussion. The only other, that's about all I have to say for now. So we'll go to Adon Olam and then we'll go down to Shabbat.
We're skipping it on alone.
Skipping
we
Adon
have a
Olam,
new
we're
vote.
going to you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going Andrea and then Tabani.
Before we do a closing song, I just wanted to put some personal thoughts about today. I first want to extend my deepest heartfelt gratitude to everyone for being here today. Joan, you said it beautifully when you said moments like this remind me that although we still have far to go, how far we've come. Like many growing up in the 60s and early 70s, I was deemed mentally ill solely because I identified as a lesbian. And like many others, I vividly recall being in my teens, walking while looking back over each shoulder, terrified someone would jump me, humiliate me, hurt me, or worse. I never dreamed I would see the day when I would marry the woman I love, raise a family, have a Jewish wedding officiated by 2 rabbis, and be given full equal rights, privileges, and benefits that I and so many others were denied for so long, and here we are. I want to also make a point of extending tremendous thanks to our allies, many of whom are here today. Without our allies behind and beside us, we would not be where we are today. I love this synagogue. I love this community. And today and every day, when I enter these doors, I feel both my teenage and current adult self get an enormous hug that says, you are warmly welcome here and you belong. Thank you for giving this to me and for this service today.
So we're going to conclude the service with the final page of your handout. This song is called Everything Possible. It was written by Fred Small and it was popularized by a group of 5 gay men most of whom are dead now because of AIDS, they're an a cappella group. And Michael Callan wrote these opening words, and he says, try to imagine how different you might be, how different the world might be if more parents would sing lullabies like this to their children. And I just also want to say that I used to sing this to my son all the time, and I still do, and he says, shut up, Mom. So, anyways, with that introduction, we have cleared off the table, the leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody that you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart beats and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're gone. Some girls grow up strong and bold, some boys are quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind, some grow in their own space and time. Some women love women, and some men love men. Some raise children, and some never do. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts or games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you. You can be anybody that you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart beats and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're gone. Oh, the love you leave behind when you're gone.
Marvelous, thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. We're gonna do a little Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.